Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Comeback Sports Podcast. I'm your host, AJ, and this is Season 2, Episode 7. We got a jam-packed filled episode as usual. We'll be talking about the Packers' free agency moves, Aaron Rodgers' future with the Packers, tips for runners, and a little bit about the beer mile, so stick around. Now for your quote of the week. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. So, Sam, what does that quote mean to you?
Wow. First of all, AJ, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Of course.
It's a blast. I love listening to it. It was the first time I've actually had a chance to speak on one. Funny you bring up that quote. I think about that a lot. You know, hindsight's 2020. Mm-hmm. You don't know that until after you've learned. So I think learn from your experiences. Don't be afraid to fail, because you're gonna see it's gonna be clear one day. Just keep powering through.
Yeah, I do like that take. My perspective on it is like, you're going to be kind of like thinking so much into the future, thinking this and that. But when you look back at things you've done in the past, you kind of use those lessons to kind of propel you into your future. So you can't just stress on what's next. You just got to live in the moment and learn from your mistakes.
Yeah. Well said, AJ. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know who Sam is a good friend of mine. Me and him go way back to high school. We're old men with with little broken bones and old age, bad backs. You can name it. But we were running rivals back in high school, and we've been friends ever since then. We kept in touch. So Sam, glad to have you in the show. So what's new with you?
Yeah, no, not a lot. Living out here in Denver, down in Lakewood, and doing a lot of running, like you mentioned. And yeah, I know we were just talking a little bit before this, and we were talking about like all the aches and pains that we've experienced, and like how shitty our 30s are going to be with all the training that we've done. But I mean, you know, I wouldn't want to do the running any other way. I feel like you know, starting to hit my groove a little bit more, and you talking about some knee pain, but like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. We shouldn't count ourselves out just quite yet. I think there's some good running left to do yet.
I mean, I think we're kind of still in good, healthy age. I think runners kind of start to see decline around their 30s, and we're not 30. We're both 26. Yeah. So this is our prime, if you think about it. So why don't we just see how long this will last until we have to call our knee doctors for a consultation? What you drinking today?
This is actually water in a beautiful green
cup.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like gin and tonic or something.
Dude, I was on a work meeting, and I have one with an orange bottom to it, and it was like an 8 a.m. meeting. Mm-hmm. And one of my coworkers just chatted this whole company group chat. It's like, Sam, are you drinking scotch right now? I was like, I wish, dude, but it's 8 a.m. This is water, unfortunately.
Were you at home? Was it like a Zoom call?
Yeah. Everything I do, literally, I'm either out running in Lakewood or I'm sitting in this room making cold calls and building up my book of business. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So let's get on to sports. So for those who don't know, me and Sam are both big Packers fans, and we definitely want to talk in some stuff on what's going on. And the first thing we want to talk about is, Sam, the Packers have made some moves in free agency. Do you like what they've done? What are your thoughts on it?
Dude, what moves? What are you talking about, AJ? We've done nothing. We've just re-signed our players from last year.
That's true. Well, technically it is a free agency move since they're on the market. But you're right. We don't really have any big names or like any players outside of any team, really. But one thing I did like was they did sign Aaron Jones, and I'm glad they didn't really give him a huge mega deal contract. For example, like the Cowboys giving Zeke that big contract. Because my opinion, Aaron Jones, great running back, top 5 easily, but I just don't see it necessary to ever overpay a running back, because I won't say they're disposable, but they're kind of, their prime is a little bit small. Their usage is a little bit of a shorter window versus a quarterback or a receiver.
I like the move to keep Jones, especially, I mean, dude, I love Williams. This is like a great teammate, great player, amazing running back. But, you know, with Dylan in the waiting,
oh yeah,
you need the speed with the power. You can't have 2 power backs. So, and Jones, obviously, he's a phenomenal back as well, and he takes a lot of the pressure off Rodgers in the early part of the game. And I know LaFleur is really trying to save his usage for later, so we can have him down the stretch. So Rodgers isn't like throwing the ball 30 times in the second half.
Right. Yeah, I do like they are kind of focusing on Dylan because yeah, he's big, like, he's real sturdy, like he's good for like third, like short and third situations because he can plow someone. I honestly think he kind of reminds me of Saquon a little bit in terms of like how like thick he is. I mean, he's a thick boy, right?
Yeah, true, very true. Dude, what do you think about losing Lindsley? I mean, we
Oh
didn't
man,
like do anything with the cap space. We just lost a great offensive lineman.
it's bittersweet because he's great, one of the best centers I've seen in the game. But Packers just can't afford him. He's worth so much, and there's other things we got to focus on. But Chargers, they have a good piece for sure. How
Dude,
about
they're
you?
going to be real good. Look out, they had a really good free agency as well. I didn't look into it too closely, but NFC North got some better quarterbacks for the Green Bay Packers to play against, but it's going to be tough come postseason.
Oh, you talking Jared Goff?
Got Goff, got Mr. Gosh, what's his name?
Andy Dalton?
Dalton, yeah, the Red Rocket.
The Red Rock. Oh, I feel bad for a Bears fan. At my job, I'm from Chicago, so people are big Bears fans, and every week I get a message on a couple Slack channels saying like, "We signed Andy fucking Dalton." It's like they're just always in agonizing pain. It's just really hard to watch them. One thing that really bugged me, but not bugged me, but a little frustrating was they did give Kevin King a contract. And seriously, I didn't really realize that. I'm a little harsh on him, but I didn't realize he was playing hurt for so long.
Yeah, I actually don't mind the Kevin King resign. I know he kind of like a lot of things kept us from going to the Super Bowl, but Kevin King was unfortunately he had a couple bad plays towards the end. But I don't know. You look at the same way MVS had, tied for the most 40-yard plus touchdown catches of the season. He probably could have had twice as many if he caught the damn ball every time it was thrown to him. But I guess the thing with the free agency, people don't realize the Packers are so solid already. And, you got another season of King playing up in Lambeau and learning how to play in the cold and learning the system a little bit better. And I think like time will tell to see if it was a good move or not. But hey, man, running it back, I think that's not the worst thing we could plan on doing, especially Rodgers. We might not have him in 3 years.
Even that's true. Yeah. That's very true. And one thing I really liked was actually not really liked, but I kind of want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts of them re-signing Mercedes Lewis? He's kind of old. Yeah, he's kind of old. He's like 37. He's a tight end, and those guys take a lot of hits.
He doesn't need the ball. He just is blocking.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know, dude. LaFleur and Rodgers love him. I trust their judgment.
Okay. I mean, as long as they had Bobby Tanya, I'm fine with that, honestly.
Yeah, dude, they don't even need Adams, and Rodgers could still get 4 touchdown throws in a game. They don't even like Lazard, Adams. Those guys were out. Bobby caught 3, and Jones caught 1 against the Falcons. Like that's why I'm not so worried about. Oh, we didn't get a wide receiver. Like it would be sick to have one, but you can only throw 1 ball at a time, and we've got some pretty awesome wideouts.
It's true. That is true. But from what you say, what it sounds like to you is that like we're running it back and we're kind of like saying, like I said, we're okay with how we are right now. But the draft is coming up and the Packers have the 29th pick. What do you think they're going to do with it? Are they going to get a certain player or are they going to fill a certain position? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say there's 100% chance we don't get a wide receiver at the first pick. We'll probably trade up and get another quarterback. No, dude, I was like looking through top prospects today because I'm not super familiar with college football. I didn't watch a ton of it this year, but dude, Green Bay loves stacking up the offensive line, getting like D line can stack up a little bit more. And it sounds like we don't really need D backs this season. So I could easily see us grabbing, one of the O line from the Big Ten. Yeah, I don't really know who the best of the best are, but Big Ten's always got some good linemen. I know we always grab them. Like, dude, we've got a great trio. We've got Adams, Rodgers, and Jones. Just keep Rodgers healthy, keep Adams healthy, keep Jones. Like if you just have a great offensive line, we could really help a little bit more. I think replacing Lindsley. That's what I'm most worried about. Is we lost like an all-pro starter lineman.
That's true. That was my thought exactly. Just kind of keeping that O line strong. Maybe they can get a replacement for Kevin King once his deal is up. Get a cornerback because I mean, there's a lot of great prospects. Like people just wowing everybody at pro days, and I'm sure the combine's going to do the same exact thing. But you're right. We're not going to get a wide receiver because we complained about that last year, but then we realize is that we do have the assets. And Rodgers has proved he's still that guy, and he can make what he has from a wide receiver standpoint. But I just think protecting him is important because one, he's older, and then two, we're missing Lindsley. So I think the lineman is important, and as I said, a cornerback would be great, maybe a linebacker because we've struggled on the run game, and having that linebacker piece could definitely help neutralize other teams running offenses. So that's my thoughts on what they're going to do in the draft.
Yeah, I think like Rodgers has to put up like 38 points in NFC Championship games to even like score enough to win, as our defense just lets up so many touchdowns in playoff games. So that's one thing. It's, you know, we could fix the defense. That'd be great. You know, Green Bay fans do not like, we love our Cadillac offense, but that defense is tough to watch sometimes.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is a little frustrating when we allow these random touchdowns, and then Rodgers is up. He's got to be Rodgers again, or Aaron Jones has to step and be Aaron Jones. But you're right. It's just like a straight brawl offense that has to kind of get the load off the defense. But speaking of Rodgers, so the Packers didn't really restructure or extend his contract, so there could be certainty that he may move on after this season, and the Packers can save up to I think 22 million in cap space in cap room. Why do you think this happened, and what are your predictions with Rodgers' future with the Packers?
It's a great question, man. I honestly don't know why they haven't figured out a deal yet. I mean, from Rodgers' standpoint, he's not necessarily like he doesn't have a wife who makes like way more money than him. So with Tom Brady, he can just take these pay cuts and like
But
be totally
he is
fine.
getting married though. He is getting married.
Yeah. Shout out Shailene Woody. Yeah, that's great. But yeah, I mean, to the same point, I think Rodgers is very aware that his time in Green Bay is not going to last forever. Like, and they also, he was exactly what Jordan Love was to Brett Favre. So he kind of like knows that that's maybe what the front office wants to do. I know that Jordan Love had some issues with accuracy this last season. At least that's what I've heard. Maybe they're just saying that because he's phenomenal. They don't want him to go anywhere. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think with the new coach, Matt LaFleur, and he's really into that whole backfield motion offense where he can run a lot of jet sweeps. And I know he got away from that a little bit more this past season, but if you had a mobile quarterback, dude, we might be even better. I don't know. And 22 million in cap space saved is big, but you obviously are dealing with, in my opinion, the best quarterback to ever play the game, not the best like winner, but Green Bay is not the best franchise. So that's my thoughts, man. I think he'll probably, I'd love it if he stayed, but I think the Green Bay's plan is probably to just repeat what they did with Favre.
You're right. They want to just repeat history. If it worked the first time, then why not do it again? And they have to justify that, but they have to justify by trading up to get him, by giving Love the future that's just similar to how Rodgers did with Favre. And I just think like Rodgers doesn't really like change. I think he likes where he's at. He's comfortable where he's at. He has a fan base that's very dedicated and loyal to him. They back him up more than the own franchise gets credit for. And the Packers, they kind of take advantage of that by just saying like, hey, we just kind of test the waters, just keep pushing his buttons a little bit, such as drafting his replacement or not extending his contract. And believe it or not, Green Bay is a small market city. Like they don't have as many luxuries as these other big market cities like New York or LA. So they gotta have to like play a little dirty at times in terms of like messing with Rodgers' contract. And like I said, they got to justify that pick they did for Love by getting him in there. Because if Rodgers keeps playing and and he's there much longer than we anticipate. And it's like, what was the point of getting Love then? Then the Packers look stupid and they don't use him for anything. They had to trade him away to someone else. I mean, that could have been a potential, like, what if? Like, maybe if we got the kid in sooner, maybe he would have shown some promise. So that's kind of my thought of why they didn't really do anything with Rodgers' contract. But you're right, Rod. You and I both know. It says on the wall, we think Rodgers is the best quarterback to ever play the game. His release is incredible. He can get rid of the ball no matter where he's standing from. He could probably throw backwards and throw farther than any of us. That's just how good he is. He's so talented, and I think that this season will be kind of similar to how last season was, where we have these doubts about the Packers, and we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be that guy, but he still showed he was that guy. And the Packers think, well, he can just do the same thing again. He's not showing any signs of decline. So why don't we just kind of push it aside a little bit and focus on the future, since he's already playing good right now?
Yeah, the Jordan Love situation was obviously a lot different than when we got Rodgers and Brett Favre. Not incredibly different, but it motivated Rodgers in a way that obviously got us to a 13-3 season, got him to, what was he, 48 touchdown throws, 5 interceptions. He actually had 3 runs, so he's like 51 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. It's so crazy that we're just going to let that walk, especially if he repeats it again this year. But what if we let Love walk and he becomes a franchise quarterback for the fucking Bears and is putting up like crazy stats every year? Where it's like, crap, we had 2 good seasons with Rodgers, but we could have just hung on to Love and had, 15 plus.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's very true. They would look like the idiots if that were to happen. I wouldn't be surprised something like that happens, but not likely. It's going to be the same thing with from Brett to Rodgers. It's going to be Rodgers to Love. But I think the situation's a little different. Brett Favre wasn't really eager to mentor his replacement. I think Rodgers is a little bit more of a soft side for his teammates in terms of that kind of perspective. Like, I've seen him be real friendly with his backups, like Tim Boyle and maybe Deshaun Kaiser. Maybe you can speak for that, because I wasn't paying attention too much to him. But he just kind of comes off like he has no bad grudges against any of his potential replacements. He's just playing the game and just kind of just laying off, just relaxing, like that little quote he did. Yeah. So I think the situation is a little different because Rodgers is obviously not the same exact person as Favre. So we'll see how it turns out.
No, that's a great point. I mean, he is like an awesome teammate. And I think talking about the season that he had, he's like, this is the most fun I've ever had on a football field. I've never gone into a season so carefree. And, he had a pretty good one. So I think if that's his demeanor in the Green Bay locker room, then I would imagine they'll want to keep that demeanor in that locker room. They re-signed Lewis and he's way less valuable. Dude, the eye test is so critical for sports. I mean, people who are just like stat nerds on their phone, they don't watch the game. And then they're just like, oh, like NBA, I think NBA is the worst for that. But with the NFL, especially, hey, yeah, Tom Brady is the greatest football player of all time. Like, he's got the most Super Bowl rings. But if you watch Aaron Rodgers play football, if you watched the game where he had no wide receivers and against the Falcons, that was an amazing game. I think it was in the snow. If you just watched him, you say, how does this guy, nobody thinks this guy's the best of all time unless you're a Green Bay fan.
You're right.
I guess he's only got 1 ring, Green Bay's got 2 rings in the last 30 years. And we've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back.
Context is important. You have to actually watch the game to fully understand how it's played. You can't just look at numbers and know exactly what happened during the game. I've made that mistake plenty of times, and I think it's important. You just got to see it from a game perspective, and you'll have a better understanding of explaining things and kind of backing up your evidence of what your opinion is, I think. Before we transition into running, I want to ask, do you think the Packers have a chance of going to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, 100%. It's gonna be tough. I mean, the Bucs are running it back with a pretty strong team, and they buried us. And then not as much the second time, but it'll be interesting to see what the 17th game adds to the season. But I think we got a real shot at, getting another 13 wins easy. Not easy, but I don't know. The Green Bay Packers are always going to figure out how to be at least in the North picture. Like, I don't know. Do you see anybody else winning the North this year?
The NFC North, no, I don't.
Yeah.
It's probably been about the same. I mean, we'll see what Jared Cook does. I don't. No extent Jared Cook, Jared Goff does. Maybe since offense is a little different, he might play different. Could be worse. It could be better. So that's the thing I'm not 100% certain on.
Yeah.
But everyone else, it looks about the same. The Bears might even take a step back. They're just a mess.
I
But
would love that.
yeah, that's fine with me. It's fine with me. It's just probably not good for my coworkers because they're probably gonna be mad all the time when we're talking.
42-0 at halftime. That's that's the magic number.
Oh my gosh. But in terms of my thought on them going to Super Bowl, yeah, I most likely think it's gonna be a Brady's Rodgers matchup again. Bucks are retaining their players. The Packers are retaining their players. Some changes in the NFC North, as I mentioned, that's looking pretty good for the Packers. In terms of like the actual matchup for the Super Bowl, that I'm not too certain of. The AFCs look a lot different now, and people are starting to understand how to play the Chiefs now that they've gotten used to them. And then there's quarterback moves like the Colts. They look really good. They got some good pieces. That includes Carson Wentz. And then I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty much the same thing again. It's just a matter if the Packers can overcome that next step.
Yeah.
That's where I'm not 100% sure on yet.
And I think, just because we were so close to getting Watt down to up into Green Bay, it's tough to know that the Cardinals are looking really strong after they picked up Watt. And
I forgot about that, honestly.
yeah, I think Murray's really coming into his own as well. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat this season.
I'm
I don't know.
I'm gonna just go on a whim and say that Kyler Murray actually, I say he has a chance of being on the MVP discussion. I like how he throws the ball, and he has some good pieces around him now.
Yeah, I mean, Watt literally chose to go work on a team with a young Kyler Murray than to go home to Green Bay and play with maybe he just didn't know Rodgers was going to be there. He's like, well, I don't want to go to Green Bay if Rodgers leaves. What's the point?
So, yeah, but he could have been a hometown hero, though, if he would have went to the Packers.
He would have been a hometown hero with a smaller bank account. But yeah, no, I think it would have been a good look for him for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I would have liked it. I would have liked if we got Sherman too, even though I don't know if he would have had much to give anymore. It would have just been cool to have Richard Sherman in our backfield.
Richard Sherman's funny.
Yeah, he's so funny, dude.
I can't dislike Richard Sherman. When he did the interview with Aaron Andrews, where he's just yelling at the microphone, I'm like, this homie is wild.
Yeah, that's why I wanted him in green and gold. But I don't know. I wanted all the wide receiver free agents that we just never picked up. There was like 15 great wide receiver twos we could have had this free agency. But like I said, man, it doesn't matter. Rodgers is going to be fine.
Right. I did get a little excited when I heard that Corey Davis was an option. I like Corey Davis. He's actually from the Wheaton area, where I live, a Chicago suburb. He went to high school with my girlfriend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I always tell everybody, yeah, my girlfriend banged Corey Davis. He's like, I didn't even know him that well. But that's not the story, though. I want to look cool when I say it.
It's like self-cock jokes.
I watched it happen.
Running. What do we got on that?
Let's go. Thanks again for getting into some Packer stuff with me. I don't have too many Packer fans out here, so it's nice to chit chat with you on that. But let's transition to running. So running is the sport that me and Sam bonded through. It's the sport we probably know best. I mean, we're long, we're handsome, we're skinny. So this is our sport. So Sam, just to give the viewers a little background so they know what kind of runner you are, why don't you just kind of give a brief rundown from the beginning of when you first put on your running shoes to this morning when you took off your running shoes after your run?
Yeah, so I've been running since I was Oh man, I mean, obviously everybody's been running forever, but I started running as a freshman in high school. I did track. I was actually like way more into golf and basketball at the time. So track was just something to fill in the spring. Sophomore year, track was a little more fun than freshman year. And then junior year, my coach finally convinced me to try cross country. And so that was, I think, when you and I actually like saw each other for the first time, was at a cross country race, junior year, track senior year. And then, yeah, went to Iowa, University of Iowa, where I competed on the track and cross country team for 3 seasons, lettered, raced indoor Big Tens in the mile. And after that, injuries, burnout, just doing that as long as I did. I took a couple of years off after graduation. I think it was October 2019, I ran a marathon in Minneapolis, and through the whole process of training for that and reading books about longer runs, really got into like the ultra marathoning type of world, and wanted to do a lot of miles. I didn't really know why or what I was going to do next, but training for the marathon, I like really screwed up my hip and my TFL. So I had to like walk the second half of that marathon, and then it took me about a year before I went in and got the rehab I needed to actually fix the injury. Now I'm back up over 40 miles a week finally. Moved out to Denver last year exactly. It took me like literally almost a full calendar year to get up to the mileage I want. But yeah, dude, now I'm living the true runner's life out in Denver, and it was well worth the wait. It's great. I love training out here so much.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you kind of found your place and your style of running. What are your outside of your ultra marathon running? Do you have a favorite track event you like to run or at least watch?
Yeah, I was a miler. I really loved just running the mile. I mean, I would have liked to do some more 3Ks in college and maybe some 800s, but yeah, I just was fed into that specialty race. I did some 8Ks in cross country and wasn't a huge fan of the 5 mile race. Really liked the shorter stuff up to 3K. And then after I took some time away from the sport, got out of like the competitive nature of the track event, then it was like, why do I love running so much? Read Born to Run, read Eat and Run, even Shoe Dog, Phil Knight's book was a great way to kind of get me bought back into running, but in a totally different way. And I think the longevity that I've built, just enjoying the sport so much differently now, that's why I feel comfortable doing 20-mile long runs on the weekend, and have no plans on stopping really. So that's why I'm going to keep myself healthy. And a lot of the reason I wasn't the first time around is because I would just get done with work, stand for 12 hours, and then go run for like 2, and then just go to bed. You can't do that. If people listening who want to get into running, you can't just stand up, put your shoes on, run, and then like be done for the day. So I know that's probably something we'll talk about too with training.
Right. Man, that's great, man. I didn't know you had an injury in the middle of a race and you had to walk a half of a marathon. That sounds brutal.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a buildup where like I wasn't stretching enough, but I was doing these crazy long runs, and your ligaments and your tendons just get so tight. And then yeah, I actually had to really cut down on mileage, which made me kind of worried for the race, because I was doing the month up to like 20-mile weeks, and they were not like comfortable, but I still had signed up for the marathon, so I was like, whatever, I'll do it. I did come through the half under 3-hour pace, and then from there I kind of jogged it in. Luckily in Minneapolis, the fans that watched the marathon, they just lined the entire 26.2 on both sides with coolers of beer, and if you're not running it, you can still have a great time, but it wasn't the race I wanted going into it.
That's great, homie. I'm glad you had a good time doing it. So right, let's get on to like actual training and like running tips. Like you kind of go over like the kind of races you're training for. Do you have any tips for like anyone that wants to start a running plan in general? It doesn't have to be like a marathon racing. It could be someone that wants to prepare to do maybe a 5K or a half marathon. Yeah, kind of what are some key things that can translate through almost any plan, I suppose?
Yeah, I think the most important part of any training plan is, for me personally, I noticed like if you can get your mind in shape, then like your body's going to get in shape too. But what I kind of mean by that is if you're wanted to go run a marathon or a 5K, like that's a distance maybe that's way out of your normal scope of what I can do. It's like an overwhelming feeling to be like, oh man, I got to get in shape, like that kind of feeling. Like, okay, you just like snap your fingers and you work out a bunch to get in shape. I think, don't make it harder than it has to be. If you're starting out running and you've never ran a step in your life, just like put your shoes on 3-4 days a week and just go outside. And if you're feeling really good one day, maybe do like longer than you would normally. And if you feel really shitty, like the act of even just putting your shoes on, get your running clothes on, and going out the door. I think that's like what keeps most people from actually going and running every day, because it's like kind of scary. But if you just get over that, like base mileage, easy runs, run some hills, stretch, like there's so many different pieces that go into it, but it's just one step at a time for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. Taking it one step at a time is important. When you first start, you're probably not an expert, so just kind of taking it day by day and just going how you feel is important. My key tip would probably be consistency. Just finding a balance where you can consistently do this week over week, and kind of learn how to plan. So for years, my running habits have been based off what coaches have told me. Then after I graduated college, I had to learn how to make my own plan. I didn't have a coach that was going to tell me how to do what or how fast to do what. So I learned how to, because then I did it on my own after college and ended up getting injured. So when I was in the recovery phase, you took the time to educate myself on how to like actually learn how to train. So this is a book I recommend to anybody, honestly, anybody, whether you're new or old at this. This is Jack Daniels. I'm dead ass serious. His name is Jack Daniels.
Awesome.
It's Jack Daniels running from us. Saying you probably heard of this guy, at least heard of this book. It really helped me. It helped me kind of organize it and phase it out. Like I have it to where it's like 1 through 4 phases. 1 being your kind of your foundational phase, 2 being kind of more of transition to work, like actual interval training. And like 3rd phase is kind of more of keeping your learning how to be more economical and efficient and getting used to the uncomfortable paces for long periods of time. And then phase 4 is usually kind of like your peak phase where you're not trying to be faster all of a sudden. It's just keeping your fitness and doing without getting injured. Then that's just for my plan. I'm sure it varies by what kind of race you're going by, but it's kind of a general idea of like making sure that you have a plan and the phases makes sense in terms of transitioning to your optimal like running fitness. And as I mentioned, like time management's important. Value your sleep and help you actually just kind of be at your full energy when you run. Because if you have an off day back to back, you're having some bad sleeping habits, or maybe you're not eating the right things or something like that. But I think sleep's the first thing to fix, because then it kind of makes it a little easier for you to recover run over run. But I think kind of like making it fun, as you mentioned, like just going out for a run and just kind of going by how you feel. I think that's important, because running is a hobby. It's a sport. It should be fun. It shouldn't be like a chore. You shouldn't just be, oh, fuck, I got to go out and run. Like you shouldn't be feeling like that every run. Some runs, it makes sense because sometimes you just feel a little sore, but it shouldn't feel like that every time you go put your shoes on and go on a run. And I think something kind of helps avoid that feeling is setting incremental goals. So let's say you want to run a 5K for the first time. Maybe your goal should be, okay, I want to be able to run a mile without stopping. Or after I do that, I want to be able to run a mile at this time. And then just keep working your way up until you get to feel comfortable getting to that 5K mindset where, okay, I can do a 5K now. Now I want to start doing beating my personal best in terms of how fast I want to do it. I think it's a way to just make it fun and help build your confidence. And it gives you a reason to like actually want to run. And the last tip I think I have is just listening to your body. If like you are just achy all the time, where you feel like you just can't really get over a slump, maybe just take a day off. You'd be surprised, and just take a day off and just stretch your muscles, or just do some sort of alternative exercise, maybe biking, hiking, just some sort of form of exercise that kind of you're still exercising and building your fitness, but you're doing it in a way that you may not be injuring yourself or leading up to an injury. So those are kind of my thoughts.
No, I think that's a great point. And I also, it plays in really well because I'm kind of coming out of that cocoon of recovery. Um, pay, I didn't know how important it really was until I got like into, listen to like David Goggins talk about heart zone training. But you listen to your body. Like if your body's sore, if your body's not recovering well, like, hey, maybe you should take a day off. But if you're like wearing one of those watches that tracks your heart rate anyway all day long, and you can see like a trend, hey, I've been waking up with a higher heart rate. If you do sleep with one of those on, or if like, hey, I've been exerting a ton of effort on this run and I'm not going any faster than I usually do. Like that's something for me, that's a huge red flag. Like your heart rate on an easy run, and if you're just like bouncing between 180, 190 on an easy run, you're probably not going to enjoy it at all. It's going to feel terrible. But it's also like to you and me, like having done this competitively, it's almost getting back into shape and knowing that like, okay, slow is better right now. It's hard to get yourself to think that, especially if you're like passing people and you're like, oh, I gotta like run faster right now for some reason. I don't know why, but I have to. Really, that's been the hardest thing for me, is being okay, just being like, nope. I mean, I'm tied to this heart rate being under 150 on this run, and I'm going to be out here for an hour and a half. But if I get my 8 hours of sleep and I know that I've controlled myself on this run, because your heart rate's like the number one way to tell if you're overexerting yourself. Then you get home and say like, okay, this is a good run. I slept, got my 8 hours in, and recovery wasn't great. Tell by your resting heart rate when you wake up, or maybe you take a pulse check in the morning at the same time. That's a good way to tell if you're overdoing it too. I think that's important. You mentioned building in a consistent schedule. Like for me, most important thing first is enjoy it, be healthy, be comfortable. And then like I'm building in the consistency now where, I'm doing like a Tuesday workout and a Friday, and then you got your midweek long run on a Wednesday, and then your actual longest run Sunday. Monday you can run if you want. Saturday, please take a day, go hike, do whatever you want to do to stay active, whatever. But those Tuesday, Friday blocks, the Sunday block, like those 3 blocks to me are like, if you're building structure it around those. And even if Tuesday is like, hey, this is fartlek day, this is tempo day, but for right now I'm training for a 5K. I don't need to do 5 minutes on, 3 minutes off, 6 minutes on. I don't have to do a ladder like that. I can do easily, hey, let's just do a 10-second burst up this hill, take a 2-minute break, do another 10-second burst. And then like, hey, after 6 of those, if your legs are feeling stiff, like jog it in, take it easy. Don't start out your run with that workout, build into it, let your legs warm up. And then, like your legs love being thrown around and doing all this different shit. Like they actually hate just doing the same flat route every single day. So if you change the pace, change the elevation, change, what routes you're doing, get outside, don't run on a treadmill if you can help it. Just all of these ways to stimulate not only your legs, your muscles, but your mind and your body. Like you have to have all 3 going to enjoy it enough to train the way you need to do to reach your goals.
I agree 100%. Right in the money. But you mentioned like your legs don't like to be in a static motion or being on a treadmill. They like to a little more flexibility. I think a lot of it has to do with like kind of muscle fatigue, like not muscle fatigue. What's the word? I think it's like muscle confusion. That's what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
It's same like if you're working out, you're doing weights. Let's say if you do the same reps on bench press, like 3 sets of 5, and you're probably not going to get much change or progression. You got to mix it up. Maybe do 3 sets or 4 sets of 15 at a lighter weight. You got to just mix it around and like get your muscles thinking. And the more they think, the more they adapt, there's more opportunity for it to grow. And the same applies for your running muscles. But speaking of like lifting, do you have any like dieting or even like strengthening tips for people that are going into a run plan?
Yeah. I think another great point for people getting into the sport, and I'm sorry about the freaking.
Oh, you're good, homie.
What time is it? Most of you guys are listening to this on your phones anyway. But
what time is it there? Almost 5?
Yeah, just about. It's golden hour in my window.
You're so golden.
Am I frozen now? Oh shit! Hold on.
Nah, you're good, homie.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna just move really quick. Let's
That's
talk
fine.
about some strength training plans.
Sound good, homie.
Hey, what's up, Oliver? Yeah, so getting back into it, strength training for me, I would say is more important early on than doing the actual running. Reason being is running is a fickle activity. Like you can get hurt doing that almost without any warning at all. So early on, like you want to be able to have the consistency and build that base mileage. And so if you're doing 6 miles a week versus 10, that's not going to look like much, 2 months down the road in your training plan. If you're doing like the work to strengthen your muscles, I can tell you from firsthand, I was just running and that was all I was doing to get better at running. I was doing workouts and, rolling out a little bit afterwards, but I wasn't strengthening the muscles that didn't just naturally get stronger when you run. And so like your TFL or like your hip muscles are huge. And those, you actually pointed out like, hey, you should be stretching those maybe a little bit better. Went to the doctor, heard the same thing. Strengthening them, like being up at altitude and seeing the difference in fitness of doing the runs without the lifts plus with, it's night and day. That's something that I would say once you're rolling, you should be doing 2 to 3 sessions of weight training a week. And to me, that's nothing more than, grab a box of bands at Target, grab a foam roller, like a yoga mat. That's kind of like it, really. Like if you just want to get into it, you don't even need much more. Just do like the band walk side to side, forward, back, hook it up to a door, put it around your hip, do some adductor stretches, because that's something you can't like naturally do on your own. And that's been huge for me to stay healthy, is just hip adductors. I can't stress that enough with the hip stretches there. Nutrition, yeah, I've been toying around with nutrition for a while. I mean, Eat and Run by Scott Jurek is a great book if you wanted to see like what people do who run ultra marathons and don't eat meat. That's the book to read.
Wow.
I found that I used to eat a lot of pasta before running, like I'll carb load before this race, or I'll just eat as much spaghetti as I possibly can before Drake relays. I think you get a lot of energy out of like some natural fat. Like in the morning, I'll have coffee with like half and half or heavy whipping cream. And then I actually really been over the last like 3 months, just crushing like fruit cups, like applesauce, mandarin oranges, peaches. And like, that's really all I'll take down. I'll take down a cup of each of those and some coffee, and then I'll go run for like 2 hours and I won't even get a side cramp. So I think for me, that's works. And then big sturdy meal with a lot of protein. That's the best way to recover after a run, in my opinion. But I don't know, man. It's been a while since I've done the workouts you've been doing the last couple of years. What do you think?
Yeah, but you're right. Like I remember when we were in high school, we we would have big old carbo load pasta nights, and
Yeah.
think about it, like it didn't really make much sense. I don't know why we thought that was the it thing. Like, oh fuck, I had a shitty last split. I should have had extra cup of pasta last night. Fuck. But
Dude, right?
you're right. But fruit in general, that is like key. Like my coach, I remember my coach told me this a long time ago. Like having fruit in between races at a track meet, fruit gets absorbed so quickly, and that's how you can avoid cramps. Because like usually that cramp feeling is because something is still in your stomach or something's just not fully digested yet. But like fruit, it tastes good and you feel good most times when you eat it. So it's a good source of overall energy. But like starting with dieting, like I just say I'm not a super health freak. Unfortunately, I don't pay too much attention, but I think just being very balanced, getting all the foods and the food pyramid, I think it's all important. You need some healthy fats. You need your carbs. To an extent, you need a certain amount of carbs, your proteins, all of it. And like kind of staying on that 3 meal a day. I mean, you mentioned like the heavy protein, like usually in a recovery, like after your run, because your body just burns so much energy and your muscles are real tired. So protein definitely helps recovery, so you don't wake up super sore the next morning. And as I say, if you're hungry after you eat run, just eat, man. Like you're gonna need that energy and you need to build it back up. And one thing that people probably don't take into consideration, rather if you're a runner or not, drink a shit ton of water. We as human beings do not drink enough water. I was just telling Sam about this last week. I just started taking liquid IV because I had this problem. I don't drink enough water, and this supplement, it's just like a powdery supplement. It's just a little. It's just to be equivalent to like one pack is like 3 bottles of water, and that kind of in a way helped me kind of stay on track of like staying hydrated. And I feel I don't get as much headaches. I feel a little bit like relax when I run because I feel like I'm more hydrated essentially.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I don't recommend is don't eat like a full meal before run because that's how you get cramps. Like I'm not gonna go to like Texas Roadhouse, get a steak and some mashed potatoes and veggies, and then go on a run an hour later. You're probably not gonna have a good time.
Dude, that's really a good point. Even at Iowa at the collegiate level, I'm gonna throw a shout out to Caleb Wilfong here. But we were like doing a preseason like 6K, like, hey, we'll invite some local D3 schools and we'll just like hop on the course and do like a preseason meet. And like, Caleb, full ride scholarship guy, like 407 miler. And so he's not really taking it too seriously, but it was probably 115 degrees out with like 100% humidity. And he rolled up like having eaten left like a whole meal of leftover like chow mein about like 40 minutes before the gun went off. And I was like running by him as he was just vomiting all over himself in the middle of the race. So if you guys want a real life example of eating too much food, it's real. Dude, also you mentioned if you're hungry, eat after a run. I do want to push back a little bit on that. I think what you're putting into your body is so important. And like they say, don't go to the grocery store hungry. It's like a saying. I think same thing for your body's nutrition when you get back from like a hard workout, or hey, maybe I fasted this morning and worked out and now I'm fucking starving. Just, I don't know, you burn like between 500 and 600 calories an hour just on an easy run. It takes a lot to put in an hour of running. It does not take a lot to put in 600 plus calories. It's like a small fry and a burger from McDonald's. So time and a place, definitely don't not eat the foods you like, but I would just be cautious. Everybody's like, oh man, you're running, you're probably going to be in such good shape. And then if it doesn't happen as quickly as you want it to, you're like, man, it must just be running's not for me. But you got to keep in mind your output and your input, like you're probably burning 3,000 calories a day if you're doing an hour of easy running with your daily calorie burning as is, maybe a little more with your metabolism going up, but just make sure you're putting the right stuff in and you'll find out why like very quickly if you're just getting into the sport.
That's true. You can't just eat anything. You do got to be conscious, and if you eat a bunch of junk ass food throughout the week, don't be surprised if you feel like ass when you run.
Yeah,
I mean, simple as that. I want to talk about my tips for strength training. You gave an example of using band stretches. 100% agree. I think band exercises is a good way to relieve like stress on your joints. The same with like water running. I mean, just like running in a pool and not like actually touching the ground, or even touching the ground, is still less stress on your muscles and joints versus like actually running on the streets. Those are good things to incorporate in terms of strength building because it's resistance training as well. In terms of weightlifting, I think you're right. I think it's important to incorporate it early on. My reason being is it's a way to strengthen your muscles to avoid risk of injury. So, I mean, to minimize the risk of injury. Because like there'll be times where like I'll be on a run, I feel kind of sluggish. And then later that week, I have a leg day and I get some squats in, get some deadlifts in, and then other leg strengthening exercises. Believe it or not, like the next day, my legs feel a little bit less, sluggish. And it's just like you're developing that power and overall muscle endurance through strength training as well. So I think that kind of plays into a role on how you run. And like I said, mix it up, man. Incorporate some low reps, high reps, and that can definitely help you. If like you're incorporating some high rep lifts, that could help with your muscle endurance. Some low rep lifts that can help with your power and like your kick. Let's say it's the final 200-meter stretch. Your legs, they've been squatting 200 plus pounds, depending how much you can lift. And you've been doing those short reps, and bam, that's right there. That's when it comes into play. Like you got the power, you can lift the heavy weights. Now, can you lift through the pain? Can you go through and finish strong? Because there's plenty of good runners out there And sometimes it's that kick that they just get beat. And so I think just incorporating any strengthening is important.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, I mean, to speak to that, like if you're building strength in areas where you're not really able to build that strength on a run, like if you can take the outside source of, hey, I'm doing band exercises, I'm doing single leg squats, glute bridges, just to strengthen these legs and make it easier to do like a single leg squat. It's basically what a run is, just a bunch of single leg squats. Then you're not going to fatigue as easily in the areas that normally would. And so like what happened with me when I was doing all this running for the marathon, my TFL was getting super tight and I wasn't doing the work to strengthen or stretch it out. So what it would do is it would just get super tight and pull everything over to the side. And now I'm overusing all these other tendons and stuff that just stack up. And I thought I had like a hernia. I thought I had like dislocated my hip, but it was really just because I had one tight muscle that threw literally everything else off. And if I had just strengthened it and stretched it appropriately, which is what I'm doing now, I can handle being in Lakewood running 40 plus miles a week at 5,500 feet, just elevation, and feel a lot better doing it than I ever did running in Iowa. So I think like the kick's super important, but if you're somebody who's out there just trying to run and get the miles in, that's why it's so important. So you can do the mileage, you can like do the running that you want to do. And if you're somebody that wants to race and kick ass in a 5K or whatever it is, like the fast twitch muscle, that stuff will build so much quicker if you've got the strength, like AJ's saying.
yeah, good point. I was going to mention, you mentioned, you said not your IT band. It was was it your IT band?
TFL.
Your TFL.
Yeah.
And then that was not strengthened enough or stretched enough. And then other muscles had to compensate for that, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So like
Mm-hmm.
I've gone from being like left foot straight, right foot duck footed, because like, hey, the tendon was pulling it literally out to the side. So a lot of the adductor stretches are to like overcompensate for that tightness and really open up my leg again. And now I'll run, and a good way to tell like what your form looks like is if it snows, you can just run through the snow and look back and see like, oh, are my feet in the shape of a duck, or do I look like, are they straight forward and back? And the right one was like way off. And so I went in and he's like, yeah, you should really stretch this out. Let me give you some exercises. And it's not an overnight thing. If you are struggling with injuries, it's going to take some patience and like a lot of patience, I would say, most importantly, and consistency. But yeah, like opening everything back up and feeling the benefits of doing those adductor stretches, like can speak to it confidently that it really does work. And the mental benefit I get on a run, knowing that, hey, a couple months ago, I would have been in agonizing pain going way slower, or like I wouldn't have been able to touch this distance at all. Like it just would have been not possible. But
Yeah.
learn from me. If you're injured, go get help immediately. Like it's a quick fix. Literally, when I got help, it took 3 weeks to a month before I could really get going again. It's my cat.
Yeah, 100% agree. If you're feeling something, you just go see help. You can minimize the amount of time it fix. And like your injury kind of reminds me of mine with my knee. I had a knee injury, and it turned out like my hip and this muscle, my quad, the hip was stronger than the quad muscle, and which led to the injuries. So my doctors, they prescribed these strengthening exercises that were improving my hip, but along with my quad. I mean, over time, and eventually improved my overall knee from like feeling any pain. And I also learned like it's hard you can't really stretch a kneecap. So I learned that like if you want to help with the pain, you got to stretch the muscles surrounding it. Like I got prescribed like exercises to stretch my hammies, my quads, my hips, my calves, and over time it helps. It helps with the pain. I do it every day, and before runs especially, and every little bit helps. Like just it's very important to strengthen these small muscles that you don't really pay attention to, and also not strengthening, but stretching out these other muscles that kind of complement it. So there's no overcompensation within where your injury could be or where it is right now.
Yeah, and if you're not one to drink water and you're trying to recover from an injury where your tendons or muscles are too tight, it's like really going to slow you down a lot. Because if you're doing a ton of training and you're not getting electrolytes or just the liquid you need, like that's what got me. I was doing 20-mile long runs and not bringing any water, and then that just takes everything out of that tendon. And then if I'm not recovering at all, or doing like a little bit, like you brought up not just hammering the injured area by rolling it out. That was something I was doing. I was just rolling out this area that was injured, but it was like a ligament that was injured. I can't just like, you can't just roll it out and magically fix it. Like I have to, open up the other areas so you can give it a break. And rolling out, like for people who don't know, when you get a foam roller and you're like rolling out on your quad or something and you feel like this tight pinch, that's where you just want to lightly lay on it for however long you really want, but you don't want to push too hard. Think about it like if you have a rope and you pull it, you can get a certain distance out of it, but if there's a knot, it's going to be shorter. And if there's 2 knots, it's going to be even shorter and you're not going to be able to pull it out as far. And if your muscle has those pain points and you can find them really easily with a foam roller, you can like work them out and then your muscle's going to just feel so much better. And a foam roller, I don't know about you, AJ, but if I'm using that religiously and doing it the right way, that cuts down time for recovery almost faster than anything besides maybe ice bath.
When was the last we took an ice bath?
Dude, so I don't have access to one out here. What I'll do is just lay on the floor and just put my feet up against the wall. It's like kind of the same thing. You drain it for 10 minutes, 15.
Me too.
That feels great too. Yeah.
That is cool. I was gonna ask, what was it? I remember. Oh yeah, rolling out. I think it's important for people to know when you roll out, you want to do it on a very fatty or muscly part of your body. You don't want to do it on a direct, small, like a ligament or a tendon, directly at least, because I just don't think it would help much. I feel like you just kind of, it feels like it just hurts more than it helps. If that makes sense.
And keep it off of your lower back. Like you can do above the hump and over, like that's where it's going to crack anyway for you. If you have lower back pain, you should really be focused on the hamstrings and the glutes.
Yes. My friend told me that my back was hurting a little bit yesterday morning, and my coworker is like, "Oh yeah, that just means your hamstrings are tight." I'm like, "Really? Yeah, just stretch them out." And did a little stretching, and now it doesn't hurt as much anymore. So that's a little fun thing I learned this week.
The hard thing to learn also for people getting into running, like knowing that every motion that you do needs to be in line with how you would want to run, like a perfect running motion if you can get it. But otherwise, you should really spend time, like get a mirror, record yourself doing some of these things, and also know kind of what a flex feels like with like a proper running motion. That was something for me. Like if I'm doing these adductors and my like ankle isn't pushed out farther, or if I'm like duck footed doing these adductor stretches, it's like stretching a different ligament the wrong way. But if you like put your foot the right way, you can get access to that ligament. And that's something I didn't know was so vitally important. It's just knowing like how to get access to the things that you need to like rehab appropriately.
True. Very true. So Sam, just to kind of jump off a little bit off topic, but still on topic. Have you ever done a beer mile?
Dude, I have, as a matter of fact, done 2.
How many, what was your time, I guess, on both of them?
First one, I ran like 10.5 minutes. And then the next year I did like 8 flat.
Oh, wow. That's a big jump.
And then AJ's going to brag about his PR to everybody right about now. What's your beer mile time there, AJ?
Well, since you asked, my beer mile time is 6 minutes unofficially. I want to say unofficially because at the time, I want to say I probably didn't drink 1 or 2 of the bottles, all of them. So I don't know how much was left. So I can't say it's official if I didn't measure it. So 6 minutes is my PR. It's just it's a very interesting race.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think after you throw up, it's like it's out of your system now. Okay, I feel fine now. Because it's not like you're throwing up because you're drunk. You're just throwing up because you're fucking full.
Yeah. Do you run it where you have to do another lap if you puke?
Well, we kind of did that, but we really didn't because when we did them in college, and we had to do it on a public track. We had to do it like on a track where like the actual track team would run. So like people, it was a very open area, so people could see us from outside the track if you're just driving down. So we didn't really enforce the rules too heavily because we were just trying to get in and out so no one would catch us. That was kind of the thing. Like we were prepared to run away if someone were to see us. So that was just how we did it. There was one year where like we couldn't. So we did this. I was in a run club in college, and we would do this like maybe once or twice a year. And one year we were going to do it. Turns out the track was in use because we do this at night. So why the fuck is there people on the track in the middle of the night? So we had to go to like the nearby middle school and run on their track. So that was fun. That was a good time.
What's your beer of choice? I know it's got to be above 5%.
Usually it's like a Budweiser or a Bud Light Platinum, depending on what I'm feeling. They both kind of feel the same. I think the Bud Light Platinum is feels a little bit lighter, but I think the Budweiser tastes better when I drink it.
Yeah, the Bud Light Platinum seems like, now that you bring it up, kind of a no-brainer. I was doing course heavy and it was rough. It's like a milkshake beer.
Damn, that sounds about right, honestly. A couple of my friends, they've done like Blue Moon. I think one of them did PBR, but I don't think that counted because PBR is technically not 5%.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That might have been an illegitimate time.
Oh yeah, but we didn't record it, so no points docked from him. I would like to do it again though. Now that I'm getting back into running shape, I would like to do a couple beer miles in the summer. It's just fun. I just like doing them. And like, I remember back then I would like train. I would actually train. I would do like, oh, I'm going to do a half beer mile. I'm going to do a half beer mile time trial. Or me and my buddy Rain, we actually did a workout where, what was it? We did our normal track workout. And then after the workout, we did our beer mile workout where we actually did like actual lap training. Like we drink the beer, run a lap. Then I think we took like a break. Or like we made sure it was a fast lap, and then we would do it again. And I think we did a full half. We did a half after that. We did a half beer mile, which is kind of like, okay, we're getting used to doing one by one. Now let's get 2 in a row. And that was just kind of the thing. And it was brutal, man. We were just sitting there like, oh, fuck. It's only 9 a.m. too.
Jeez.
I feel like shit.
I had some buddies who really got, like, we would do it every before every cross country season started on the team. We'd all like have a team weekend, and that's where we'd do the beer mile. And so my teammate Taylor Soltis was like really trying to go under 6 minutes. And
did you room with him? I think I might have met him.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys connected about the beer mile. He was obsessed about it. And I do.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I remember him.
Yeah, Taylor's great. So shout out Taylor Soltis if you're listening. But yeah, he would like have me time him chugging a beer, and then we would go do our normal run. And then he would have me time him chugging like 3 more beers when we got back. And yeah, I'm like, Taylor, now it's 10 a.m. on a Thursday. What are you going to do the rest of the afternoon?
Could he run them really fast? Like an actual one?
Yeah. He I think puked, but he ended up running like 6:20 or something like that. Good. Which, yeah, I mean, I think the key is like for training for a beer mile, how do you keep the foam from ruining your race?
Oh, my experience, because I remember when at my old apartment, I live alone. So I was at my old apartment. I was getting ready to do some beer miles for the summer that year, 2018, 2019, maybe. I learned, so I'd do beers and practice chugging beers after dinner or something. And sometimes I do back to back. And I've kind of learned like tilting it slowly is what's going to help avoid causing foam, because it's less moving around and shaking. If you're doing like this, it's going to cause foam. The same if you shake up a beer, it's going to cause foam. Moving it really fast is going to cause the foam. So that's my thing. And like, I don't know, just like you may taste a little foam, but just drink it. Better be safe than sorry. Just to use one extra gulp to drink foam, because then it's going to suck if it fizzles out, if it stops fizzing, and then it turns into actual ounces of beer. So that's kind of like my thing, is just like tilting it slowly and just trying to make sure you're 100% sure you got every last possible drop out of that beer.
I'm going to race you in a beer mile.
You ain't going to beat me, man.
We'll have to get it on the podcast.
Like if you want to practice your chugging, just do it with bottles of water. It's a good way to start. If you don't like, oh, this sucks, I did it once, I don't want to do this again. Like just bottled water is a good starting point. Just
makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Just get like an empty like glass bottle and just fill it with water.
Yeah. You're gonna be like putting in beer miles on your calendar this year while you're training? Just
maybe. I at least want to get one or two, like actual races or time trials, I guess.
Huh. I would say you should come out here, but like I've always run them on public tracks, and I actually have yet to find a place that will let me go onto their track in Denver.
Yeah. I was
But Morgan and I went to like 3 tracks to try and find a place to run.
in 20 let's see, was it, I can't remember if it was 2018, maybe it was 2018. I was in this run club in my area, and I didn't do it because I think I was busy that day. Also I didn't really know them for too well at the time. They did their own beer mile as a club, and they would literally just do it around. They like measure out like a city block and just do it in their neighborhood. So that was kind of neat.
Oh yeah, yeah. We might even be talking about the same beer mile because I know I've got some Strava friends who are probably in the area that you're talking about. But what kind of shoes are you going to be running in this time around?
You know me, man.
On the pegs?
Another pegs. The 38s are coming out in June, I think. So I'm gonna save up and get the new pegs and see how they go. I do need to invest in maybe some actual racing flats or some racing shoes. I feel like that can definitely help my time a little bit.
I think yeah, the pegs they're like great shoes, but they're a little beefy for like road races. I've got the 37s too, and they're great. Like the what do you call it, Zoom Air pods. Added one to the front 4-foot and then the back heel. Like I go up some pretty steep hills and also down them, and like they're really great. The heels are for the downhills out here. I've got a buddy who works at a running store down in Oklahoma City, and he sent me a pair of Newtons, just like some zero drop Newtons, and I've been using those on some easier runs. I really like them. The fit's great. They feel almost like a pair of like Saucony Kinvaras, if you've ever run in those or anything like that, but still Nike for like 85% of my mileage. And I have been ever since like 2014.
Same.
Yeah.
For the audience that don't know, audience being me, can you explain the zero heel to toe drop in terms of shoes? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, definitely. So the heel to toe drop in a shoe, if you look at a standard running shoe, like if I just picked up a Nike Pegasus, it would be about 8 millimeter drop from the heel down to the toe. So straight down. That basically what that does is it takes distance out of your Achilles to stretch. And some people who struggle with that find that it's better to have a shorter distance, like, hey, my Achilles 8 millimeters less overstretched every time I take a step on a 14,000 step run. That like adds up over time. But also you can kind of look at it in the same way you can look at a barefoot runner to somebody who wears really cushioned shoes. It's like short run, yeah, that's probably helpful to keep you feeling good and healthy. But a lot of people like the zero drop shoes where it's just basically your foot with padding underneath it, how you would normally run, like a Nike Free. Like a lot of people know that shoe. That's zero drop. It might even be 4. But basically, yeah, I personally don't. I could see myself maybe doing some easy mileage and zero drop consistently and maybe some trail running, but on the pavement, I don't see any problem with 8 millimeter. I'm sure you're probably in the same boat with the pegs.
Right. So in essence, it's like these kind of shoes are not designed for like high mileage situations, or like they're, because when I think of the Free, I don't really think of it as like a shoe I'd go on a long run in.
Yeah, I don't know if the Free, like the drop doesn't necessarily dictate the like the longevity of the foam.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. So like Brooks and Asics, they'll last a little bit longer typically. I mean, I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but they use a gel-based foam with their regular foam. You've got like Asics, you can see the gel. It's pretty common. Brooks, it's called like Mojo. It's like inside the foam, but basically the gel is heavier, gonna last longer. Nike uses AirPod packets, so you have to buy new Nikes more often. I think maybe Saucony's in the same boat there too. But no, like if you get a zero drop shoe, I personally don't know if I'd feel comfortable taking it on a long run, but I didn't grow training with them. I think if you're comfortable in a shoe, like that's enough to know to stay in it. If you're pronating and you're getting plantar fasciitis, that's another thing though. Might be in the wrong shoe.
Yeah. I was going to say, I like Sauconys, and I heard good things about Brooks. Asics, I had one bad experience, and it's been my perspective on it. I got these Asics in high school. They ripped within a week, and I understand like it was a cheap pair. Maybe I
Yeah.
just had to buy a more expensive pair. I mean, like $50. I think my mom bought them for me in high school. So that was my perspective on Asics. But yeah, there's lots of great shoes that are outside the more general brands. Like Nike doesn't have to be your only pair of shoe. You can you can roam around and try other shoes because people are different kind of runners, they have different kind of feet. So it always varies. I mean, one shoe brand may not be the one for you. So my recommendation is feel free to try new brands. Well, Sam, I actually have to get going. I am going on an outing with my girlfriend and her friends. I
Nice.
appreciate you taking the time. It's been great catching up with you. We don't really talk face to face very often since I live in Colorado. I'm still in the Midwest. I would like to definitely hop on another call sometime, maybe during the football season, or if you want to just chat about running, we can definitely do that again. And or maybe we can collab in real life. Maybe I'll be making come to the area, or maybe you come to the area. We can definitely do this again, or we can just have some beers. We don't have to do anything.
Dude, I'm looking forward to when we can do this again. This is a blast. Like I said, I've never been on a podcast before, so maybe I'll find better lighting for the next one. Dude, I'm actually going to be running. I'm not like signed up for any official race, but I'm turning 27 in July, and uh, just going to run 27 miles and say fuck you, getting older. So if you want to reconnect about that, I can let you know how it goes. Grab a Camelback and like hop on out in Durango or somewhere and just kind of get going.
I actually had a friend, his dad, who's big into running. He literally had like a fun race for his birthday. Like his birthday party was literally like a 5K.
That's super lame. No, I'm just gonna go suffer on my own, but we can talk about it when I get back.
Great chatting with you, man. I will definitely text you, and we'll have to do this again sometime. So, thanks for coming on the show. Tell Morgan said hi. For those who don't know, Sam and his girlfriend Morgan are getting married. So, congrats to the couple.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate the plug. I'll let Morgan know that you say what's up. But thanks again, AJ, all your listeners, all millions of listeners. Next stop, Joe Rogan podcast. But dude, we'll do this again soon. This was a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is mine. All right, buddy. That wraps up today's show. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share us with a friend. Thanks again, Sam, and I'll see everybody in the next episode. See ya.
See you guys.